Hello everybody, thank you for tuning in again. Today I'm going to talk about a shoot I did with British actor Bill Nighy back in December 2022. This shoot was for the LA Times. I'm going to tell you exactly how I got the job, exactly how I nearly didn't get the job, and also exactly how I shot the job. This job came about from nothing, from nowhere. It was the oddest job I've ever got, in a way. Basically, I'd never checked my Instagram messages. I don't really rate Instagram as a great tool for making contact with clients, but obviously some people do. And what had happened is, Kate, the photo editor at LA Times, she'd been in touch with me via Instagram messages that had gone in, because I'd not followed her back. I didn't know who she was. I'd not made contact with them initially. And she reached out to me on Instagram, which went into message requests. Now, I never check message requests. I rarely check any messages, to be fair, on social media. So she got in touch and asked if I would be available the following week in London to do a shoot for the LA Times. So it was only on the off chance that I actually looked at my message requests. As I said, never look at them, ever. And I looked at them that evening that she'd sent it, and it was so bizarre. Read the message, replied to her straight away. Bear in mind that LA's 8 hours behind us in the UK. I think it's 8. And she replied straight away saying, "This is brilliant, thank you for getting back to us. We'd love you to shoot an actor next Monday." This is mid-December 2022, as I said. So this was on the Wednesday. The shoot was to be on the following Monday, which is not a great deal of time to organise things. But it was a quick shoot. It was 15 minutes allocated. They'd not told me who it was at this point. That came in the call sheet, I think, on Friday morning. I think I woke up to that. And they just said, it's an editorial shoot with Bill Nighy. We're interviewing him for his Oscar nomination that he'd got for the film Living. Would I go and get some portraits of him? So I was like, trying to be cool. I was like, yeah, of course. And then inside I was like, like that. So, yeah, but that's pretty normal for me, even when I'm going to get a job shooting anything. So yeah, that's how the job came about. Very odd, very strange indeed. So the logistics of this shoot were, I'd basically been allocated 15 minutes at 6 p.m. on Monday the 22nd of December. It's etched in my brain. At the Ham Yard Hotel in Piccadilly in London. Drove down the night before, got a hotel somewhere just outside London. On the day of the shoot, drove into London, parked in Chinatown, and which is only about 200 yards from Piccadilly. I took with me a basic portrait kit, and I mean a very, very basic portrait kit. I'm talking half-width, seamless, Colorama, not this one. It was actually a very putrid lilac colour, and I didn't know it was lilac. I grabbed it in the garage when it was dark, when I set off. I thought it was grey, but it turned out it wasn't. It was lilac. If I'd have had this, I would have took it, because this orange always comes out absolutely beautiful in black and white, especially on black and white film. So if you're ever shooting black and white portraits, always look to the seamless. This is called Orange in a Calumet colour, which is very creatively named, I thought. Colorama, they call theirs Pumpkin, and it's always Pumpkin that I've always used, and that's absolutely brilliant. But this is just as good. So half-width Colorama. I took a basic light, which was this one, flash, very basic flash. Godox AD400. With a very small softbox, which with this softbox, it's an 80 centimetre octabox, and that was the setup. So there was the background roll. This doesn't sound a lot, but when you're lugging it all across London, I think it was 3 trips from the car to the hotel, and then downstairs into the boardroom, setting everything up. Also, I'd got the tripod for the RZ. I'd also got the background support system for the backdrop. This light stand, a weight, counterweight, because you can't have a light falling on an actor. That would be embarrassing. So basically that's what I took. That was my full kit. A very low-key kind of setup, to be fair, but I knew I'd only got 12 minutes, and I wasn't aware of that. I'd never been to the ham yard before. I'd never shot there. I wasn't aware where we'd be shooting. I knew there'd be no natural light because it was like 6 p.m. in December, so there was not going to be no natural light. There's going to be no window shots or anything like that. And I, like I said, got no idea what kind of room we were in. As it happened, we were in a boardroom downstairs, which it was a very beautiful room, but photographically it was awful. It got sort of halogen or LED downlighters, LED chandeliers. It had got wall lights, which were different colour temperatures. And then there was kind of like art and photographs all on the walls, which doesn't help with sort of, you don't want to breach any copyright by including anyone else's images in an image. So it was just simply a case of setting up a little backdrop and then seeing what else we could use in there. Shoot started, all went groovy. Shot on a Fujifilm X-H2, which is a cool little camera, really. I'm shooting this video on it right now. I wish I'd photographed him on the GFX, to be honest, on a prime lens, but sadly, like I said, they'd gone. And the X-H2 was the jack of all trades kind of replacement. I've got the GFXs back now, but yeah, I wish I'd had it for this job. It didn't really cause any issues other than the dynamic range is not great on an APS-C. So I lost a little bit of detail in his eyes on a couple of shots because he wears thick rimmed glasses and he's got sort of small kind of deep set eyes. So it's quite easy with the glasses to lose, thick rimmed glasses, to lose the detail in the eye. You can't pull it out like you would be able to on a bigger sensor maybe. But worked around that, no problem. So started shooting digital, just got him in front of the background. I always try to start shooting film, but I was just, because I'd only got like 15 minutes with him, I was eager to get some in the can, to be fair. So I started shooting digital. Now the problem that I sometimes, well, I don't have a problem with it, I often think it's a bit of an issue, is when you're photographing someone with a normal camera, and that camera's there, and that's all they see, and you're quite close, and that's all they see, and it's not a great kind of, it's not great for rapport, if I'm honest. I basically cracked out the RZ. I asked him, I just said, is it alright if I get a few shots on film of you? And he was like, oh yeah, cool. And then put this on the tripod, and then this became a talking point of the shoot. I never struggle for things to say to people anyway, because I always look at images that they've done with other photographers, and I try to talk about them working with other photographers. So that's my kind of in. I don't really talk much about the films because I think it's a bit, I don't want to come across as a bit, as a fan. But I always try and find some images that they've shot with other people. And I knew he'd shot with Bailey, so we had a bit of a conversation about Bailey, which was quite an interesting conversation. But also, as soon as I started shooting on this, he was well into this. He asked if he could buy it. And I said no, because it was mine. And it is still my baby, as most people know. I'd loaded a single roll of Ilford FP4, and that's the only roll I shot, so I only got 10 shots of him on this. And as I said, once that's on the tripod and I can kind of focus and work that way, I can just carry on having a proper conversation with him. And that conversation was generally about this camera. He was so into this camera, so that helped. And then I got 10 shots of him, every one of which was a keeper. So I was really happy once I'd shot the analog. I was really happy, and I knew I could relax then, and then just go a bit daft with the digital stuff. There wasn't, as I said, there wasn't much to go at. In the hotel itself, downstairs where the boardrooms are, I said they're nothing like your average boardroom. Don't think it's just a beige wall. It's not. And in the other room, there was the launch party of the Whitney Houston biopic film at the time. So that was going on. They were noisy and raucous. But in between these two boardrooms, there was kind of like a little bit of a rest area with these leather sofas that had this wavy kind of burnished brass high back. Very odd it was, but nice, and it shot absolutely beautiful. So I'd seen that when we went in, and I just said to Bill, are we all right just to nip out? I was aware of the time. I think we'd been talking for 7 minutes and shooting for 3, so I'd used 10 minutes up. And I just said to him, is it all right if we just nip into this rest area and just get some quick final shots. So we went in there, showed the images to his press agent who was there with us all the time. She liked the images, so that was all groovy. Bill didn't want to see them. Actors often don't want to see their own pictures until they're finished, or even probably not even then. One funny thing that did happen on the shoot though, while we were shooting, Bill kept chirping. He kept making kind of like a bird noise, and I wasn't really aware of what he was doing. So, but I just laughed along with it, and then it clicked, and he was mimicking the beep of the flash, and I didn't know. I just thought maybe he just beeps every time he has a picture took. Maybe it's a thing. I don't know. I didn't want to sort of like make it an issue. Anyway, realised what it was, and then and we all laughed like you do. So yeah, so he's not mental. He was in fact just taking the mickey out of the flash. Now before I go, I will just talk a little bit about editorial rates. If you're looking to get into editorial work and thinking that the shoots are sort of like massive big affairs with crew and catering and all that, they're not. They're actually just thrown together kind of last minute. You could be photographing anywhere. You could be outside. You could be in the actor's house. You could be in a very beige boardroom in a travel lodge somewhere, and that's the reality of it. And also, don't think that you get paid thousands and thousands, because you really don't. The editorial rates are really, really low, but the good thing about them is they do bring in more work. I know a lot of jobs often promise this, oh, it's low paid, we've not got much budget, but you know, you'll get something will come from it, and very often it doesn't, generally never. But when you're shooting A-list actors for publications like the LA Times, things do come off the back of the initial shoot. So if the rate's really low, don't just think, I'm not doing that, it's too low. Do it, because you will get other things. Off the back of this Bill Nighy shoot, I got a cover with the Sunday Times Culture magazine, which paid twice the amount that the original editorial paid. One of the images off the analogue shoot, the profile shot, that won Portrait of Britain, and with that you get other things that come from that as well. So that's Sunday Times cover, Portrait of Britain winner. And off the back of that itself being published, which was in between Christmas and New Year, I got about 3 jobs from American actors that were all working in the UK the following spring, and all got in touch and said, could I come and book in a shoot with you? So I booked in 3 full shoots, actor shoots, off the back of that. And then, not to mention the other thing, it's not just the jobs, it's also that kudos of having an A-lister on your website and on your Instagram and things like that. And when people see things like that, and they see that you've worked for the LA Times, then that's going to bring in other jobs as well. So don't just think, it only pays this, I can get $5 for a wedding. Don't do weddings. Unless you've got no soul. They are good, editorial shoots are good. They're not well paid, but they are what I got into photography for, because they are exciting and you get to meet people who... I've been a fan of Bill Nighy for years, and I've always looked at him and thought I'd love to photograph him. He's tailoring, he's grooming, he's just like old school cool. Like a lot like the Terence Donovan images that I have in his book over there, which have been a massive inspiration to me anyway. So... And also the fact that I shot it on film, and it was only a last minute decision to take the RZ because it's big and heavy, and I was trekking across London with Kit in the rain, in the dark, and I'm so glad I took it, because that contact sheet, which is available for sale by the way, if you want a print of that, you can have a print of that for a very modest fee. I just think that contact sheet in itself is sort of like a career-defining image that I took, and you don't take many of those in your life. It came from nothing, from a message request on Instagram, which I nearly missed, to being probably my favourite job I've ever done. And had nothing to do with money, it was just the fact that they allowed me to do what I wanted to do. There's no real brief. See, that's the other thing I love about working with editorial. With magazines, if they booked you, they've generally booked you because they like your style and your work. So when I was driving down to London on the Sunday, I actually emailed not while I was driving, when I'd stopped. I actually emailed Kate at the LA Times and asked her if she had a brief, if she had anything in mind. And she just said, no, you just do what you do. We're happy to let your vision come through. I love working with American clients. They are so gracious and well-mannered about stuff. And when you send things to people in London, it could be best shot ever. It could be like a photograph of the Queen, and you send it to the editor, and they're kind of like as if they've just had a pizza delivered. Thanks. But the American clients aren't like that. They're always very grateful for your time and efforts. So, and they pay you. So that's groovy, groovy, groovy. Once the shoot had finished, it was a quick drive back to Sheffield up the M1. I think I left at 7:15, perhaps. Everything was in the car, loaded up, set off. Got home for midnight. Straight into the kitchen. Developed the roll of FP4. That was the most nervous roll of FP4 I've ever developed. Because if that hadn't have come out, I mean, I've never had a film that's not come out. Touch wood. But luckily it did, as you can see. So yeah, developed that I think I'd finished developing that about 1:30. Went straight to, hung it up to dry in the airing cupboard with the pants and socks and various other items of clothing that dry in our airing cupboard throughout the winter. And then got up about 9, straight into scanning. Wow, that took me I think I scanned for about another 5 hours. It took me about 5 hours to do the full scan. I wanted to do a really good scans as well, so I made sure I did, if you've seen my scanning video, I do multiple shots of the negative and then stitch them all together. So I think on these, I might have done 9 sections of each neg, but possibly 6, to get some really good files just in case they wanted them big anywhere, and then created that contact sheet. So that contact sheet was on their desk by, I would say, around 4 p.m. UK time the very following day. So from the shoot taking place at 6, probably 22 hours later, the analogue images were on the photo desk in the LA Times. So turned it around dead quick, and then I just started working on the digital stuff. I did the following evening, well, the same evening, but for delivery the following day. So they've got everything within 36 hours. They've got all the finished files, and they absolutely loved them. They were blown away by them, and I think they were published. That would have been probably the day after Boxing Day, so something like that. So in between Christmas and New Year, but I absolutely love this shoot. It's been like an absolute career booster, and it came at a time. I'm like a firm believer in the universe just giving you what you need when you need it. It doesn't give you much, but it gives you if you really need something. And at that point in my career, I really needed a job like that, because we were coming out of lockdown, entering silly season, Christmas, which is never a great time for photographers, I don't think, unless you're an elf photographer. Just because I looked at my Instagram message requests. That were lucky, weren't it? There you go. Thanks for watching.